Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ramon from Modern. I hope you guys are having a great day. As always, if you're enjoying this channel, please, as always, like, subscribe, and share the channel. So today I wanted to give a review of one of my favorite lenses that I've ever owned, which is the Canon EF 35 f2. And I bought this lens back in 2016, and it quickly became one of my favorite lenses that I've used, and it's always in my kit. So why should you purchase a 35 millimeter lens? It's not a 50 or an 85 portraiture lens. I always like to think of it as something that's kind of an all-around lens, a thing that you could use maybe for environmental portraits, street photography, just something that just captures everything in the area. It also makes a great travel lens. If you're traveling around, it's nice and compact. Not as compact as maybe the nifty 50, but it's still in a nice small little frame of a lens to use. So a few of the things that I like about this lens is, number one, it's the image stabilization. The image stabilization is really well done in this lens. I don't notice too much shakiness. So the image stabilization in this lens helps a whole ton if you're the type to do both photography and then videography, and you're going between those two media. When I shoot video with this lens, I've always noticed that it has kind of a nice steady image stabilization to it. So that's really one of the reasons why I really like it. So being that it uses the EF mount, that means that you could use this on another camera manufacturer that's not Canon. So an A7, the Panasonic Lumix series, cameras that have EF adapters to them. So that makes it very flexible if you want to transfer this lens to those other camera bodies. So at the time of making this video, this lens is priced at about $549 US. You might be able to find prices for this lens a little bit lower since it's been out now, and that there's other competition for 35 millimeter focal range. As a matter of fact, the new RF lens, there's an RF 35 f1.8, which has been just released. So you're going to be able to find deals for this lens. But on the used market, I've seen the 35 f2 fall between $450 to $500. So it's pretty affordable. However, it's not as cheap as Canon's nifty 50 or Canon 40 millimeter lens that is a pancake lens that is really affordable. So you're gonna still pay some amount for this lens. So a few things that I don't like about this lens. I've recently started vlogging a lot more, and this lens uses a USM stepping motor, and what that means is that you're gonna hear a noise in the background, depending on, or if it's having trouble focusing, you're gonna hear that noise in the background, which might be distracting if you're vlogging. So that's just an issue that you have to take in consideration if you're doing something such as vlogging. So another thing that for me it's minor. I wish that this lens was an f1.8, but it's just f2. Even though f2, you'd still blur out the background if you're doing something like maybe taking an environmental portrait. But for me, it hasn't been that much of an issue. Although there's competition from Canon releasing a new 35 millimeter for the RF mount that has a 1.8, so something to consider, especially if your camera body is an EOS R, RP, or the newer R5 and R6. So to wrap up, if someone was new to the Canon platform and was looking for kind of a nice all-around lens, and I would totally recommend the 35 millimeter f2. I just think it's a really great all-around capable lens that you could use in street photography, videography, and other different types of medium. So if you have a traditional DSLR, I'd probably say it probably wouldn't work too much for portraits. However, if you're using something like a mirrorless camera body, like an A7 in EOS R, that means that you could kind of get a 50 millimeter type of range from this lens by going to the crop mode, because most mirrorless bodies do have a feature where you can use it in crop mode. That means that it'll turn this lens from 35 to around 50, 56 millimeters. So then you'll have that flexibility to shoot portraits with. That's beneficial if you're using a mirrorless camera body that has that crop mode and factored into it. But for me, this lens is the perfect balance between photography and doing videography, just because it's just so flexible to use. So finally, I'd like to say thank you for joining me today. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, and share the channel. Thank you guys as always, and I'll see you guys in the next one.